Tairua-Pauanui Community Board meeting. Just well, we cannot see that sign behind. I have. We are being recorded. Are there any apologies? There being none, I'd now like to move on to item 1.2, the making and attesting of the members' declaration following the 2021 by-election. I'd now like to invite Ms. Catherine Whiteman, the successful candidate of the 2021 Tairua-Pauanui Community Board by-election, to make and attest the declaration of office as the newest Community Board member of the Thames-Coromandel District Council. Kathy. Well done. Congratulations.
Sure. I, Catherine Whiteman, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Tairua community, powers, authorities, and duties vested or imposed upon me as a member of the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
It's all right, though. Thank you.
It's like getting married.
Yeah.
Time to run here. Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, the resolution to receive the report. Can I have a move and second, please? Yep. Second. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, yes. Thank you. Item 1.3, the public forum. Our first guest speaker, John.
Tēnā koutou. My name is John Drummond and I speak on behalf of the Tairua Environment Society. The Tairua Environment Society held a public community meeting on 21st of July to discuss road safety issues along Kaku Drive from the intersection with Ocean Beach Road, intersection with Esplanade around Thames-Coromandel. About 20 interested people were present, including residents of Kaku Drive, users of the road and footpaths, tangata whenua, and others. We also had input from the Surf Club and some Kaku Drive homeowners who could not attend. The group present identified issues and possible solutions. Conclusions from the meeting put traffic speed as the biggest contributor to the problems created in the area. We listed 3 actions which would overcome the problems. 1, reduce the speed limit to 40 kilometres per hour. 2, install ripple bars or similar traffic slowing methods intermittently along this whole area. And 3, investigate further a proposal to install a safe passage around Thames-Coromandel, either on the roadside or the harbour side. We are asking for support from the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board in our request to progress these actions with the TCDC roading manager. We believe the actions 1 and 2, reducing the speed and the traffic slowing methods, could be implemented for the next busy summer season. And we attached the notes from that meeting.
Thank you, John. Yeah, assuming it's been handed on to the Vicky. Hey.
Hi, my name is Vicky Overson and I live in Hikawai. Thank you for letting me speak today. I'd like to talk about the online recordings of the Community Board and Council meetings. I think it's great that these meetings are being recorded and then posted online. This allows people like myself and others who can't attend the meeting but can watch it later to keep up with the deliberations. I believe that in the long run, more ratepayers will watch an online recording of a meeting than will attend it. Being able to witness decisions being discussed and made gives ratepayers a sense of involvement and inclusion, and this is one of the foundations of democracy. The recordings of the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board and some council meetings fall short of my expectations, which are to see who is sitting at the board table, who is speaking, and hear clearly what is being discussed. Audio, vision, and editing, these are the things that need to be worked on. The audio is very poor quality, and at times it's difficult to understand what is being said, and occasionally, especially the Thames meetings, it's indecipherable. Vision. Why is there no camera here? All four of the other community boards have a camera. Guest speakers and council representatives, like the Thames meetings, are often unseen and hard to hear. And whoever is controlling the on-screen video needs to be aware of what they are showing the viewer. For example, putting the main camera, like you'd have in the Thames one, into a small box means the viewer is unable to see who is talking. And also leaving cameras of external speakers who have dialed in online, leaving them permanently on the screen. So we are sitting there as a viewer, watching them, watching the screen for an hour. And editing. For the sake of transparency, the council should state on its website and YouTube channel whether the meeting's recording has been edited or not edited. With tweaking and improving on these things, the viewer's experience will be much better and more people will watch them. And I hope that in the future, TCDC will start live streaming the meetings. I think the best outcome of improving the quality of these recordings would have to be that ratepayers would be better engaged with the decision-making processes of council and the community board. With an improved online presence, a much wider variety of ratepayers would be able to participate in the local democracy process, and surely that is to be encouraged. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Do you want to see that?
Yeah. And I've got 2 extra copies. Thank you.
Now I understand Joyce, Vince, or do you wish to say?
I do. Thank you.
Oh, should I say this?
No, just to say something for it. I'm just very much off the cuff. I've just come this morning with some of the other people here who are in the audience to a blessing of the site where NZTA are going to put the pedestrian bridge next to Bam Street. And I have to say, we're absolutely delighted from Walk Tairua that this is finally happening. We've been pushing for it for a very, very long time. And it's going to make a huge difference to people who are trying to walk the loop now. They can get across there safely. The next problem, however, is going to be walking on the main road. And so what I just wanted to flag to you guys was we would very much like to see some sort of footpath put on the bridge to where the footpath joins Summer Lane as soon as possible, because there's going to be a whole lot more people walking around here now because it's easy to get across the bridge. I know a lot of people who won't go now because they're just too frightened to cross that bridge. So There was certainly some very positive talk from NZTA and Santa Claudia. The mayor was there this morning, and she also seemed to be indicating that there'd be willingness to put a footpath there. I'm not sure whether that will come under the ambit of the community board, but since you're responsible for footpaths, I imagine it would. So I'd just like to flag at the moment that'll be the next project we'll be approaching you about. Thank you.
Can I have a move and a second? Have we received the? Oh, is there anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, Tony. Yep.
No, that's okay. Sorry, I didn't register, but I guess it's really, I'd like to support the comments of John about the safety of Paku Drive. And I'm talking on behalf of someone who's lived up Paku for 20 years as a permanent resident. And I'd like to see the safety and the speed limit on Paku Drive extended all the way up to the recreational ground, because anybody who drives off that driveway, of Paku Drive, the steep part, there are very steep blind bends. And the trouble is, on the left-hand side going up, there's a lot of vegetation that tends to grow out in the road. Anybody with camper vans, they're forced to go over the wrong side of the road going up, and you cannot see to the last minute someone on the wrong side of the road. So it's becoming more and more dangerous. Speed limit on there would make a big difference, and cleaning up the vegetation on that side of the bank would tend to keep people on the right side of the road. And it would also, people now who are walking on the footpath up there, when they're trying to cross each other, step out onto the road, and you've got a matter of seconds to react if you're going around the bend. So I'd really like to see that safety aspect extended up there. And on behalf of the tree, the weeping heart, I like to call it, I think regardless of people's opinion on how old it is or anything else, I think that it does deserve to stay where it is. I've witnessed lots of lovely trees destroyed by vandalism at Paku Hill over the last 20 years, and I'm convinced that we can keep that beautiful tree there, but find a safe way to go around it. So I just like to add my 2 favourites on that. Thank you very much for listening to me, and also Joyce's comments. It's great to have that bridge there. You extend the footpath down, ratepayers have battled as well to get that bridge done. So it'd be good to finish the job up. Thank you for listening.
Can I now have a move and a second?
Oh, can I speak in the public forum, please?
Acknowledge the presence of the person.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just want to take a moment to, I didn't want to interrupt the meeting, so I'll close the public forum. Thank you very much for it. And just want to take a moment to welcome Kath Whiteman as the new community board representative for the area. Congratulations, Kath. That's brilliant. And also to congratulate the board for, in conjunction with the community, for this next fantastic new project, which is your bridge by Graham's Creek. So I think it's great project, fantastic to have that loop walk, and we'll be doing what we can to make sure that the bridge connects with the footpath further down the road. So well done to the Tairua Community Board. So that project comes on top of opening your new toilets, which I think are fantastic, and they're one of my most go-to places, apart from the Brown Street ones in Thames. So thank you very much to the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board. Congratulations.
Right, for the third time, can I please move and second to receive the public forum? Yep. Okay. Are there any new items on the agenda? Are there any conflicts of interest? None. I declare I would like to open up 1.6, the minutes for confirmation. Are there any matters? Those previous minutes? If not, can I get a mover and a seconder for the resolution to confirm the minutes? All in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Two point one, the discretionary fund, Prescott's Garage.
Okay, I'll take the report as being read. This is just a report just to amend the wording of a previous resolution to reflect the budgets actually put into the LTP. So originally the board had agreed to, had resolved to pay $1,200 from their contract community services budget to Prescott's Garage for the emptying of the septic tank. That budget didn't go in, so I'm now asking the board to actually take it out of their discretionary grant for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Further discussion? We have a mover and a seconder. Resolution, thanks. Yeah. Over. Yes. In favour? Yeah, aye. Yes. Carried. Point one. Proposed cover and construction and variation of the lease, which is on page 16 of your order paper. Do we have?
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning. So it's just a footprint change.
Just a book change. Processes.
Yeah, I'm happy to move. Quite a comprehensive report. So any other discussion on that? Can I have a second for the suggested resolution? Jim, favour? Aye. Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Short and sweet.
An awful lot of writing to do. There's a little result.
Well, obviously, that is not a week. Iteration. It's quite much building. You can actually. Item 4.1. Tairua-Pauanui 21-22 Parks Works Program. Page 50. We have staff here to talk.
Good morning, board. I'm online at the moment. Derek Thompson here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Yes, again, take the report as read. It's just basic explanation as to what budgets are available for parks renewals. There's 118,000. And there's a minor parks budget of 50,000 and outlines some of the projects that will be accomplished or proposed for this financial year.
I've got a couple of questions. There's a couple of barbecues there. Can you tell us where you're proposed to place these? There's one on up at Manners Bay. Where was that? Is that right at the end?
If I ask my esteemed colleague who's sitting to your left, Eileen, to help me with the explanation on that one, she's more geographically conversant with that particular area. Eileen?
I'm not quite sure where Lou was the one who brought this up, but I would be thinking it would have to go down that far end because the rest of it's on a bit of a rise. But Lou never really sort of came up with a location. Where were you suggesting, Warren? Down the east?
This is news to me. I've just come up on the paper.
Somewhere handy.
I was not aware of it all. In fact, the second one, the south end of Ocean Beach, that's even got a.
No, I think
Where
that's.
on earth would you put that?
No, that's south. I think the south end of Pauanui, wasn't it?
They've already got
Oh,
South End of Pauanui. It was the second barbecue at that site.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that the one for Nana Beach, you know, we can just leave that there as just do the site location, do investigations into the site location.
Correct. Yep.
You got power there?
Because these are electric, no.
There's a toilet block there, so there should be power there.
Oh, I just think that if these things are out there, it'd be nice to be in the loop. And these things come up. You know, between council reserves and the board. We can probably assist. Jerry.
Yeah, I got a question. Again, Derek, the dog bag dispenser bins, is this a new line they're putting in or a replacement? And whereabouts are these located, in Tairua or Pauanui?
A smattering all throughout. They're around about 500 or so dollars to manufacture and a little bit more to install. Lou's got a list of sites around the area. So that gives you a rough idea as that there's going to be a fair number going in, proposed to go in.
Is these replacements or additionals?
Additional, I believe, but there would be some. The replacements would come under the parks renewals budget, which is the on the page previously, out of the 118,000. So these are additional ones.
Okay, thank you.
So these green plastic bag dispensers, are they?
Correct.
Ones that the kids get hold of and take off down the street. And they lay a trail of 100 metres of the things.
We do have, yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Can I have a move and second? For the resolution?
Oh, can I just ask a question? Derek, you talked about the park seats. Are these memorial seats?
No. Well, the same style park seats are. So a memorial seat is paid for entirely by a donor, but it's the same style as our park seats. So the park seats in our renewals list are the ones that are to be renewed, obviously, because they're at an age where they're 10 years or 20 years old, whatever it is that requires renewal. But if somebody wants to come and propose a memorial seat to us, they pay for that entirely.
I understood there was going to be some conditions around the memorial seats and where they go and how many are going to going forward, etc. Has that been policy being put into place, or is it still being discussed?
So from the previous board for Pauanui, we don't put any more memorial seats on the front beach, Pauanui front beach. We work with the men's shed in Pauanui. They deal entirely with the donor, and we've got a number of pre-selected locations.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Can we move into second? The resolution?
Yeah.
You all in favour?
Aye.
Yes? Derek?
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Item 5.1, licence to occupy. This is our Waikato Regional Council flood monitoring radar device out at Morrison's Road Bridge. Guy. Do we have? Yes, we do.
Thanks.
Thank you. Morning.
Take it as read.
Christian?
Yep.
The bolt-on gadget.
Yes, yeah, it's can provide real-time flood monitoring. It's about 8-10 metres above the bridge, and it can give an accuracy down to 3 millimetres in real time. So,
And is that transmitted some way?
yes, yeah, that's right. Connected to a station, a power box, which is essentially next to the street light. You know, what I get information is going to be really enhanced. Real time.
Vandal proof?
Does everything?
That looks like could do with the box.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't, from what I can see, it doesn't like it would draw much attention. It's kind of conspicuous. Yeah, it's housed within a sort of side that essentially it's complete. You wouldn't even know what's in
Is this the first big type they've done this, right?
No, they've got another one that's bridge across here in Murray, Tairua.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the second one.
Is that information public?
Yes.
I'm happy to move.
Very good. Yeah, all in favour?
Aye.
Yes? Carry.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Hold your finger off.
Stay on.
Yes, down.
Item 5.2, traffic bylaw amendment. Do we have staff? Yeah?
Yeah. This is your favourite one.
Yeah, this is my street. Yeah. I think this is a waste of time. Myself, I live in this street, and I do know that the person that put it up no longer has family living in the street. And I don't have a problem coming out of my street, traffic.
I've been in and out of the street for 40 years. I've never had a problem.
I don't see this. Yeah.
How did it come about?
Through the chair, if I just jump in, all I'd say just to support James and the roading team is that obviously it's come up from the public that they think there's a need there. I take the members' points that there's a lot of intersections that have been in place for many decades that haven't had give way signs or stop signs. But what I would say is that standards have changed over time. What the team have looked at, the roading team, so James and James's manager Ed, have looked at is the current standards and where things are applicable or not. So what they're saying is that they believe it is applicable. We don't want to rush around and do things that aren't required and put signs that aren't required, but based on the current day standards, the assessment on site is the recommendation from staff is that it does go in. So again, it's totally up to the community board what they decide, but I just wanted to kind of make that point from the staff perspective.
Can I ask, has any accidents happened or anything that's I highlighted this other than somebody's opinion?
I'm not aware. I guess the challenge often with accidents is like unless they're like a serious crash or a crash where someone has an injury, that information doesn't actually come to light. People will have like a little fender bender. They'll get away lightly on it, and then they'll just go away, and the police often aren't even involved, and we'd never even know. So
there's nothing happened that you know of?
Not that I know of, but I haven't looked into it. I don't know whether James knows. There's nothing serious. So there's nothing serious being noted. So all I'm saying is that doesn't mean nothing's happened.
There's 3 streets. Gary, our street in Norfolk. The only problem we ever had is a bit of sunstrike. First thing in the morning. There's never been an incident that I'm aware of.
Are there currently any signs,
No,
giveaway signs?
So can you just explain to us, just help us a bit, why you think it's important to put it there? Just help us through
It's
this.
just sidelines.
Sidelines.
Yeah, essentially there's a fence that's within the property boundaries.
Right.
It's restricted vision.
Is it trees or is it something that can be removed or is it something
No,
that's?
it's within, it's boundary fence.
Boundary fence,
Yeah,
right.
that's essentially someone has.
That fence being a bit
Is there any more traffic or, more houses being built, something like that?
It seems strange to do it on just one intersection.
Yeah.
There, when it's in the street, it's actually 4.
Yeah, the other ones don't,
Drive across the street. Yeah.
sorry, the other ones don't have as much, they do have better sidelines.
Yeah. If you stop, have a look. Don't just hold out on the road going anywhere else.
Yeah.
Have a look.
Just drive responsibly and you're safe as shit over there.
So if you propose a compulsory stop versus a give way, you thought the compulsory stop was a better option?
I think that's what came up. Yeah, it was solid.
What was the reasoning behind the stop versus giveaway?
Just with the sidelines, speeds up.
Has there been a number of complaints?
Just, they have this one that was raised. I remember the others.
Just stop driving. I would have thought.
Can you see it sort of, but it's that thing. It's obviously this one.
It's sort of, and it's
The both ones, that's up.
making rules for the sake of making rules.
What do you think?
I've lived in North Mason for nearly 20 years. And never had a problem there. Same as been working in and out of Chestnut Grove for 40 years. Never had a problem. Sure. I hope somebody gets killed.
Through the chair. Yeah. James, just having a look at it, if you look at it on the map, it's, if you look at one side of the road that runs out there, there's a map there on page 61. And you look at the other road on the other side, it almost mirrors the type of access in and out of that road. A good way sign, a stop sign can be, in the middle of winter, a stop sign, people roll up to the corner, there's no one there, roll around the corner, they're breaking the rules, they've got to stop. A give way sign, yeah, would that be a bit more in keeping with what you're trying to achieve here?
Possibly.
Can I just jump in there to say, James is trying to be collaborative and work with the board. What I'd say though is that the team have looked at it. They believe the stop sign is the right application for that intersection. If you look at the other two intersections, the Bennett Drive and Norfolk Place, they're a totally different situation. If you look, there's good sight. They're on the inside of like a concave bend, whereas if you look at Chestnut Grove, it's convex. And so you've got a challenge looking to the right as people are coming around the corner. They're running close to the.
That's 50k area.
I know it's 50k area, but 50k, if people are doing 50ks, which you'd hope they wouldn't in that situation, you'd have to be going a bit slower. 50k, they can turn up quite quick. If people are just rolling out of Chestnut Grove, there's an incident there. Now, what I would say is I'd go back to what I said before. The board don't have to agree with it, so you can make a different decision. All I'm saying to you is that as staff, we've recommended the stop sign in that application. For the reasons that James has outlined. So, again,
I think based on what you've told us, that I think the stop sign is a little bit more prohibitive than a giveaway sign if it's just a point of looking and making sure your clearance, because giveaway is telling you, hey, just think about this, have a look, go around the corner. Stop sign means you've got to stop physically.
Correct.
And then move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for the nature of what you're trying to achieve there, I just think the stop sign's a little bit over the top. So I support a giveaway sign if that's going to help, but not a stop. I know what the rest of the board thinks, but that's
The person where that shows a big Norfolk tree, that Norfolk palm has since been chopped down. And if that fence can be lowered, that'll help the problem. Many people are very approachable. I know they live in Christchurch. They are very approachable.
Through the chair, could I just jump in? Alternative is if you would like to defer it and go and get a bit more of a look out on site yourselves to have a look at it, we can defer it until the next meeting if you're not comfortable at this stage.
Yep, I'll also move that way.
We're all going driving in and out of not just back road.
See it? We look at that.
yeah.
Yep, you want a favour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
Well, he's got a roll.
The other part, the other parking. Yeah.
How are we going with this one?
Well,
is this another decision based from a complaint?
Yes, essentially. Yeah. So cars are parking in front of the library all day. Yes. Essentially, some people who want to drop over.
Right. Yeah, this is something that you did my heart. I brought this up before, not only in front of the library, but in town where we don't have any parking restrictions. Did ask, I think through Eileen, how we can address this. What's been happening outside the library is a business, not a I own one of the businesses, we park it there all day long. And their staff, they can go to those parks up. It also happens in their main street. Outside the shops, where the shop owners are parking there. I'd like to see some parking restrictions, whether it's 2 hours or whatever, something. Place right along the town, in the CBD. But yeah, no, I'm all in favour of these two in particular. Yeah, the time restriction on.
I agree with Rocky, we're trying to get that introduced, and I try to get it introduced. I don't want to do that 13, and sort of didn't get it go anywhere, but you go down there and watch, and it's just about all the shopkeepers park outside their own shop. Yeah, that's stupid.
I haven't noticed that.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah. Yeah, well,
You'll see Punter's van parked out there most of the day. Blue van,
Yeah.
the real
that
estate,
takes a park.
real estate agents all parked there. All of them. The hardware guy parks out front. People on the little, clothes shop next door, back right in front. Don't park on the motorcycle spot, really.
I'm busy, I don't spend enough time in town.
Yeah.
Kieran,
So is there a service lane for them to park? Is there other areas for them to park, or is it just no one else?
That's why we put the service lane out the back.
For them to park in there? And they're not using that? And you know why?
There's-
the ones in the shops, the one that's got the van, they have parking at the rear of their building. But it's just not convenient. They like to have that at the front. I did ask, and I was told by staff to use the bylaw, or to use, well, suggested that we use the bylaws officer to have a chat to them. They came back to me and said, "Me, you go talk to them." Well, I didn't think it was my job to talk to someone that was abusing the system. It was staff.
You can get abused enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, I talked about these two here at the library.
Yeah.
I think they were valuable to control the parking.
Yeah, I'd agree.
How long are you asking these for, James? Is there a time?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Right. Is that enough time to go and get a library?
Nearly enough time to read a little bit.
Oh, I think there is parking in the rear of the library. It's just the abuse of those two parks out front. So, yeah, do we have a movement second for this? I don't know, this thing rolling? Huh?
If we were to restrict the parking out the front, wouldn't we also restrict parking at the back? That's provided. And that makes sense.
That doesn't-
Why?
Well, that's where people are supposed to park, I think.
Yes.
So who parks here? The staff there?
Well, obviously the librarians that parks here, but there's other staff that work in the business very close to the library that are also parking there too.
Some of the four square people were back, I think they got moved on.
That park, you know, size 30 minutes, so just avoiding the opportunity to go.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I just don't know.
There is a sign at the back of the library that, yeah, it's for library users. Yeah. There is talking about the two out the front.
That's just like, some people can go and drop the boots off.
Yeah.
Out again. Convenient rather than messing around or common.
Yeah, I'll move.
Do so move? Second? You happy with it?
No, I'm just getting my head around it. I just think two car parks out the front, they're restrictive, and yet the ones in the car park out the back aren't.
Well, they are. The ones out the back.
Yeah,
Is there a time frame on it?
The library
But
customers,
there is
these
that's for library users only.
Right. Now they're used by library users only?
No.
Or staff parking there and other people parking? Yeah, okay, I'm just listening, listening to the discussion. I'm not too sure if it's going to achieve what you're going to achieve. I'm listening. Is it going to achieve what you want?
I think it will.
yeah. Yeah, I think we'll do.
So we'll put it to the vote. We have a mover and a second. Have, okay. Do we have a second? All right, we'll put it to the vote. All in favour? All right,
Abstain. I don't know.
yes,
I do feel like parking at the back needs to be addressed if you're going to put P30 up front. People parking at the front is going to use the back, but still, on this one.
motion carried. There we go.
Let's keep going, yeah.
You're on again. Good job. Item 5.4, Tairua-Pauanui Community Forward Work Program. Page 66 on the order paper. Start. Bruce.
Morning, board. So obviously, the first work program for the year for the community board. So this is as of 1 July. So as you'll see, no expenditure at this time of this report. I hope there's no any questions on the year's program, but I'm confident we'll get there and have a good push on it. So yeah, any questions?
Anything from left over from last year that rolled over?
Yeah, there's one or two that went through last week at the council meeting on Tuesday. I can't recall the list exactly for Tairua-Pauanui, but there was a reasonable list of projects across the district that were carried forward from last financial year that we've been able to meet with.
And they'll be delivered by September, October, or November.
Yeah, that's definitely the intention. You know, if projects can't be achieved by the end of June last year, there's normally a delay or some reason, you know, straight away the team continue working on them. And those projects that were carried forward on Tuesday last week, they'll also come into this program for the next meeting. Terry, obviously, this agenda was locked in before the Tuesday council meeting, so they're not in there currently any of the carried forward projects, but they're not there. Any of the Tairua-Pauanui. Thank you.
I've got a question out at Redbridge Road. On the council site there, there's a heap of galvanised preformed steel.
Right.
Now, I'm assuming that is for the skate park. Or is it paid for the skate park?
So I'm not clear on what it actually is. What is that? Preformed galvanised steel? Reinforcing.
You've got it, won't it?
Yeah, I doubt it's for the skate park. Yeah, we have not progressed through to design phase or anything on the skate park as yet. So yeah.
You know what it is?
No, no idea, but I can find out. If it's on our land. We'll check and see. It could be, as a little voice mentioned behind me, it could be what Kotahi, potentially.
Oh, no, I asked about it.
Oh, you asked already? Okay. You don't know it? No, okay. We'll find out, Mr. Chair.
The tennis courts or current tennis courts would be ceiling. You haven't got a time frame.
No, there's not one of the, that I know in the time frame, but I would anticipate by the next meeting, there'll be a time frame for that project.
That's really, it's a touchy one, because I've been told that the surface that they put on it is not receptive to scooters and skate boards.
Generally not.
No. So until we get a skate park somewhere, go ahead and reseal this and get rid of that. You just need to.
Yeah, there's always potential. I know, like in Thames, you know, before Thames had a skate park, the same thing as well. Like you get out to the netball courts, the signage saying, don't ride bikes and scooters on the court. They used to lock them so that when they were playing netball, the courts were locked. But obviously, if you go, leave it open, practice and play tennis, it's not feasible. So yeah, I'll do a little bit more investigation, just understand that a little bit more, see if this is the
I guess
situation.
it could be locked. They used to be locked.
Right, of course, we're not. I think, through the chair, I think we'll possibly play it by ear and see if it was an issue, you know, then you
always move to that, if that's something that the board wants to do.
Yeah. Mark you vote me. I got a flea in my ear the other day. I got a point up about the harbour charges. And the fact that we have not, appeared to be our board's problem, or reason why we haven't introduced rent fees. I was under the impression that we were holding that back until we got a designated area at part two. So there I'm told there is a designated area, but it's a row of bollards, but it's not a concrete thing.
Yeah,
So we,
so through the chair, the work that we did leading up to the long-term plan around the charging and around trying to get some consistency of charging across the district, which doesn't mean you've got to have the same charging everywhere, because there might be different levels of service and different ramps. But that work, if you'll recall, we parked that work, and my team, Derek's team, in facility space, are doing a lot more work between now and November this year to work on that and that via council. And if we can get a workable model where we think we can get that consistency across the district around appropriate fees and charges for harbour facilities and boat ramps, that'll go into the plan consultation to start 1 July next year if we get through that process. So that's where all those fees and charges for harbour facilities are stuck. So nothing's changed at the moment. There's been no change from last financial year to this year.
That includes the Tairua-Pauanui.
Yeah, it'll be on the whole district. We've got all the facilities across the district, wharf usage, ramp usage, boat training, all that kind of stuff.
but it is up and running as well as Tara and the end.
Yeah, so those areas have had it for a number of years. So obviously Victory Bay, they currently do it. And obviously, recall years and years ago when that stuff was introduced, different boards had a different perspective on what they wanted to do for those activities. Some boards were keen to try and get some revenue back to help subsidise the activity, and other boards had decided that they weren't in that space.
Public material decides it fastest, we can stand them up.
Yeah, that often does happen, yeah.
So there's no real reason that we could not introduce these charges.
No, there's no reason why you couldn't introduce charges. Well, what I would say is, my advice would be wait until we've done that work, and then look at it as through the annual plan process, and then if the boards come, council come, you go through the consultation process, and then you make a decision. The council makes a decision on ready for 1 July next year to introduce charges, if that's what the board is interested in doing.
And Holland Street.
On the string, yeah, that project continues to move forwards. That is a bit of a challenging one, as amendments know. So that's why we set up a working group with the community, regional council ourselves, to just try and work through that. It's not a simple, easy to resolve project. That's an issue. That's why it's been hanging around for a while we've set up a working group. So I know that things are moving, just moving fairly slowly. So
Resources, it's in,
I think so, yeah.
once we get the resources, there'll be no holding,
That'd be what, sorry?
no holding us.
Possibly, yeah.
If they question what you mean by that, what we want.
Yeah, we've had a 50-year storm and all that kind of thing. I've been down Holland Close several times with it.
Yeah.
But it's been pouring down and high tide and everything. There's been no flooding whatsoever.
Yeah.
Since the channel has been cleared.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
through the chair, it's not as simple as the clear of the channel. Clearing the channel does help. But what I would say is that every storm is different. So, we can talk about a 1 in 50 year storm. There's different types of 1 in 50 year storms as far as intensity and stuff. So it could be a bad storm, which is fairly steady over a long period, which is something the catchment can handle. Or it could be like a very short, sharp, very intense storm event where you get a real cloud burst up in the hills and suddenly the system can't handle it. So it is, it's very hard to know. We know what we get here, it was 1 in 50, but it's not always the same as a different 1 in 50 year event.
Then there's got to be a more regular clearing out of the channels.
Yeah, so again, through
Not a
the,
big job.
no, through the chair, the resource consent process is to help with that. So
Yeah.
we can clear, provide that maintenance, clear and option. We have to have resource consent with the regional council to be able to do that. So that's, that process will assist in that regard.
Chair.
To me, it's health and safety. So,
Bruce, I just looked at the construction budget,
Yes.
7,000. It says install a new footpath on Ocean Beach Road. This new footpath we're talking about from this footbridge that this morning that Mayor Gowdy spoke about. How do we get that into this work program? Can it be put it in there, or is it too late this year to get that in?
So it'd be through the chair, be an out of cycle request. So, and I can go back and get the team to start having a look at that, about how we might make that happen, what we might need to do to work with Waka. But if that's something that the board are keen and we can come up with a bit of a project around how we can do it, it could be an out of cycle project.
Absolutely.
That goes via council. The council can consider and ideally approve that project, which then get it into your program.
So NZTA are looking to help on this, or are they looking for us to?
We need to have discussions with them because it's a state highway, but there are arrangements that we have around MOUs with Wakatahi around urban areas. So the state highway that runs through urban areas around what we do, versus what they do. So
would this track the support NZTA subsidy?
Possibly, but I'd say probably not. But possibly, yeah. Say never. And we always try and get whatever we can out of that. Yeah.
It's going to be costly sort of thing. The road kind of drops off there.
It will be, yeah. It's going to be costly, but we can do some numbers and do a bit of work and bring it back.
So that's going to be an outside budget request. So you'll do some work on that.
Yeah, they will bring it back to the board. Yeah.
So at the moment, it's going to be a bridge to nowhere.
Yeah.
You do actually.
Well, I think it's down to the highest risk issue, which is people going across the one-lane bridge as well as cars. So I think it's assisted in that regard. But I understand.
The bridge has had a fair few wrecks over the years.
Yeah.
They just hit their side of that bridge. Probably.
Yeah. You know what I
It'd be
mean?
nice to see it too late, but yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
it's nice to get rid of all the way. All right.
If those two cars out from underneath the bridge,
Yeah.
people have got hurt.
Is there any further discussion? Otherwise, can I have a move and second? Please, no move. All in favour? Aye. Yes. Carry. Thank you, Bruce.
Are you going to stay on for the next?
It's online.
Item 5.5, Tairua-Pauanui Rating Capital Project Budget 21-22. We have Ed, do we?
Good morning.
Good morning. Can't see you.
He's half closed.
He's underneath, whatever that is.
There's a lot of Ocean Road footpaths.
Nothing else. 1, 2, 3. That's it. 800,000 over the period. Okay. Discussion?
Is Benaya Road close to Ocean Road? Is it?
No, well, it runs on to over the bridge, causeway and up into Ocean Beach.
Jolly expensive.
Ocean Road.
So the one on Ocean Road on State Highway 25 is that right at that end? Is that anywhere near where we're talking about?
Yeah.
It is?
Down the center.
Oh, yeah. So that's 350 metres. When is that prioritised to happen? Is that fall in line with what we're trying to achieve here? This connection?
21, 22.
That's way out.
Post construction. Hasn't got a time. Hasn't got a.
No, it's nice.
You could ask.
Excuse me, through the board, through the chair rather, if I may. We can change the priorities on these footpath projects. If the board wishes to, we can prioritise works closer to the State Highway 25 junction and to the new bridge that Waka Kotahi are putting in. And if you like, move from State Highway 25 back into town rather than moving from town out, as we are currently planning to do.
You've got that. What year have you planned that? Can that be brought forward, like you say, Ed?
We haven't actually allocated years to this. It's very much dependent on budget availability, which is one of the reasons why I put information on the funding methods for these projects in the report. At the moment, or sorry, in past years, Waka Kotahi has contributed just over 50% of the funding, enabling us to do a lot more of these works. At the moment, our funding for this financial year is $67,000. And as you can see, the schemes, all the schemes that we have far outweigh those. So it's very much a case of we can prioritise what you wish up to the budget that's available. If Waka Kotahi fund as they did previously, we'd have another approximately $67,000 this year, so be able to do twice the work. But unfortunately, that doesn't look as though that's going to occur. So funding priority would be, prioritisation for funding would be one of the key things.
Right. So at the moment, under the work program, it's install a new footpath on Ocean Beach Road, Tairua, in conjunction with the Curve and Channel project. So that's not down towards the State Highway 25, obviously, it's somewhere else along that road.
Not at this moment, no.
Right, okay. Oh, well, you have to make a decision, guys, if you want.
Prioritise it. Right. We're going to have a bridge. We're going to get through it.
Through the chair.
Yes.
If the board are interested in the State Highway 25 path that we're talking about with the new footbridge, and you'd like us to go away and do a little bit of work and have a look at that, and not proceed with the works that Ed and the team have recommended here, we can do that. The other thing is just having a quick chat with Her Worship, because there might be some options around the footpath on that footbridge that might make it cheaper. There might be some other options rather than having it happening right along the edge of the road. So if you maybe just leave it with us, if that is your priority, like that's what I'm hearing you say, we'll go away and have a bit of a look and see what options exist. Price up those two options with a rough order of costs, and then maybe bring that back to the board. And if you look at that and say, look, it's way too much, at least we can still achieve the Ocean Beach Road stuff. Let's fall back to what we recommended in the report. At least you can make an informed decision.
I think that's important through the chair, because Ocean Beach has been something you guys have pushed quite a long time, and even prepared to pay for your local rates. So we need that discussion, I think, Bruce, balance it off, you know, the importance of Ocean Beach Road versus the footpath from the walkway bridge.
I think our community would be rather keen to see this footpath put to this bridge. Otherwise, what the hell is the bridge going to do?
Yeah, but the bridge is probably not this.
Can you?
Clearer until we get better information.
Get some more information.
Yeah, it's only 6 weeks.
So, yeah. So we have a resolution that we received the Tairua-Pauanui capital project budget, and we request the staff to investigate a revised priority list and report back to the board for approval.
On footpath versus.
I'm happy with that. Can we move that?
Figure that out for the next meeting.
Thank you, Nat.
We'll do our best. Should be okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And move and second it. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mary. Item 6.1, rate remission request from the community groups occupying council-owned property, page 72 on the order paper. Do we have any staff here to talk about?
Yes, good morning, everybody. It's Donna here. Sorry I couldn't be there today for the actual meeting, but I'm unwell, so you wouldn't want me there spreading my germs.
Best you stay there.
Yeah. So I'll just take the report as read. Look, now we've done a lot of work identifying all the properties, the community sporting and other non-profit organisations that lease council property. It's been a huge exercise undertaken by staff. And if you have a look at the table there, you will see all the ones that we identified in the Tairua-Pauanui area. Now, unfortunately, not many of them, in fact, none of them, or apart from one, qualifies for a community board remission. And the reason why is because the properties that they rate are non-rateable under the Local Government Rating Act. Now there's a lot of different categories under there. There's about 25 of them, but it's mostly land it's things like land that's used by local authorities for things like here we go. Things like public gardens, reserves, games and sports, halls, libraries, that type of swimming pools, that type of thing. So the majority of our land does fall into that category. But under the Rating Act, they are still required to pay for the service charges, which is the water, wastewater and solid waste charges. Does anybody have any questions about my report?
Yeah, I've got one. Don't I just see this, that we're going to charge people rates and they're going to come back and ask for a grant to pay for it? Taking Peter to pay Paul. Is there a budget aside to cover this cost if the board decides to do it?
In short, no, there isn't. The board doesn't have the powers under the Rates Remission Act. The Rates Remission Policy to do that, but they can use the grant budget or the discretionary fund for it. The other alternatives, which I've had to think about, which I have actually put into my report, is that some of the properties, like for example, just get to that, like the Tairua Rugby and Sports Club, for example, they, in their rates there, they pay for 7 pans, so they've got 7 separate charges for their wastewater on that account. Now, one option that could happen is that we could take these ones to the Audit and Risk Committee under the miscellaneous purposes part of this policy for fairness and equity, which, you know, but they could actually remit some of those if they felt that it wasn't that all clubs weren't being treated fairly through this policy. The other alternative also for the ones that only paying service charges is for them to apply under the financial hardship remission.
Yeah, so in doing so, they have to provide their financials and all that to it. And you said if they're predominantly, their income comes from their bar, they don't actually qualify. Is that right?
No, so the policy says that if their main source of income comes from trading, then they won't qualify. So we would need to look at their accounts to confirm that.
I just, you know, the Tairua Bowling Club, they come for a grant each year, then they're going to front now with $3,000 on top of that. It's just going to put a lot of pressure on these clubs to survive, honestly. You have to up your grants by 16 grand to cover it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the alternatives are there, and the staff were quite happy to go back to the clubs and offer them, you know, if they can supply us with the information that we can determine some other ways of doing it, which I've already mentioned. I would suggest, I would suggest that we do that we try through the Audit and Risk Committee first before the community boards offer up any grant money or any discretionary fund, because there will be some groups that I'm sure will qualify for a remission under those other 2 policies.
I'm just looking under your Tairua Rugby and Sports Club. You say for 7 pans. Would you be including the 2 public toilets, the ladies and the men's that are attached, that are sitting on that Corrie Park?
I would have to get that, and I don't have that information in front of me, but I have the staff have done a lot of work, and the pans that I've put in the comments there are only the ones that are for those clubs, like all the ones that TCDC pay for on those same sites. I haven't included in this wording.
Well, the 7's wrong.
Or what I can do is I can go back to staff and I can get them to confirm that one.
Three in the club rooms and one in the old St John's rooms. That only adds up to 4.
Okay, well, I can go back and confirm that with staff.
Okay.
And they're not used that often.
There's a lot of pressure on these clubs.
Well, it is putting a lot of pressure on the clubs. They're coming to me, they're having a bit of a nickel.
Well, they will.
They're declining memberships and aged and all the things mixed.
So you're suggesting, Donna, that they come and approach you directly, or how do you want to work this?
What I would like to do is, well, if you look in the resolutions, I've put some resolutions up there that suggest that to request staff to actually contact the clubs.
Right.
Well, I'd prefer that than then coming to us, because then it's in a controlled way.
So how does that happen? Would you write to them, or how do we do that?
Yes, I've got staff that we can do that. As staff, we will do that.
Right.
Okay, so which option's that one, Jennifer? Contact those community groups, obtain multiple plan charges and carries if applied to the order. Is that the one you want? Clause C?
I would have thought the council would have been in negotiation with these people before, this drama going on.
I think there's a bit of history here that Donald can tell you about. There was 3 years ago, the community board paid all these. They made an option to pay for the people. But apparently that was incorrect how it was set up. Is that right, Donald?
Yes, through the chair. That was done through the last long-term plan process. Unfortunately, it wasn't done very well, and there was a whole lot of issues with the way that the clubs were selected to get done. Some were paid for, some weren't, and basically the policy, the rates remission policy, never allowed for that to happen. So this time we changed the rates remission policy to allow the community boards to be able to give remissions. But the problem with what we're facing here today for Tairua is that the majority of those groups are on non-rated properties, so they only pay for the service charges, which the policy doesn't allow the community boards to remit.
So Donna, which part of that resolution are you recommending?
I'm just going to, sorry, I just don't have the resolution. And oh, there it is there. So all of those resolutions is what I'm recommending. It's in particular to what we've just been talking about is resolution 2. There's one group there that we think would meet it, but they haven't actually applied for remission. And then the resolutions 3 and 4 is requesting staff to contact the groups that are required to pay the service charges and advise them, of the financial hardship remission they could apply for, or for the ones that are paying multiple PANs to apply for the remission under the miscellaneous purposes. Staff can help them with those applications. Just so you know, staff have already written to all of these groups, advising them of the rates remission policy, but only 4 of them responded. So we have already tried to make contact with them.
Yeah, but Donna, didn't this letter came out to them a while ago, and then they had said to hold back, so you were still doing some work on it? Quite a few rang me directly and said, what's going on? And they said, they pulled the letter and it went back to you guys to look at it. The other problem we got is that this came out and we've got no chance to put the money into the grants to try and help these clubs out in the long-term plan. It's come after the long-term plan's been signed off, so there's no money available to try and support these clubs who are putting in their grants for their events or their whatever they want to do through their normal channels, not to pay their rates. How are we going to address that?
Well, if you haven't got the budget, it's through for the grants. You as a community board decide who through that process, who in the community receives the grants. That's not anything to do with this policy, with the rates remission policy.
Those grants in place are already into the long-term plan. And yet we're still.
They're still contestable grants, I believe.
Yeah, they're all there, but the money that we've allowed for in those grants is for what we think's out there that people are going to apply for that normally come through the channels. But this is a new add-on, $16,000 that's going to be applied for. That's not considered in those community grants. See the issue?
Well, okay. I see I do see what you're saying there. But do you think that the clubs shouldn't pay for the services that they use? Is that what you're saying?
No, for the last 3 years we've paid for it. If they knew they were going to pay for it in advance, we would have put some more money in the community grants to consider it. But we've had no opportunity to do that because this has come out too late. So we've got a timing issue here in terms of trying to address it. So these clubs have got an opportunity to find the money for their facilities to pay this rates, which they haven't had to pay in the past.
I guess another alternative is that you would have to approach council for an out of cycle budget for that, if that's what the board wanted to do.
Yeah, it's complicated because it's come late. It's complicated.
So through the chair, I guess what I'd say to that, just, and Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anything's come late. I think what we're doing now is applying the policy correctly, and I think it was applied incorrectly before. But I take your point, Councillor Walker, is that you're saying if you were aware of it in the long-term plan process, you might have jumped your grants up so that you could cover these off. So I think again the option that Donna's just mentioned, to go to council for an out of cycle request to go, we want an additional amount of this money for our grants for this financial year to pay for these service charges on the club's rates. I think that's possibly the option which will achieve what you're trying to achieve, if I'm hearing you correctly. And so that would be something that we do a quick paper to council, and request that money, and then council can make that decision if they want to pay that, if they want to let the board pay for that out of the local rates. Then that would be the way to go. Is that correct, Donna?
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah. I think a fair bit of this, from the feedback I've been getting from those that are hit by this, is from last year, from the COVID, it knocked these clubs. Their income was affected pretty bad. So they haven't got the money in the coffers.
Yeah, I understand. So through the chair, I understand. I guess from our side, we get residents coming to us that have been hit quite bad with COVID as well. And again, it's, you're trying to juggle and balance up, paying stuff for clubs, by subsidising by the ratepayer in Tairua-Pauanui. Yeah. And it's trying to make that decision of, do you want to put that burden onto the local rates or do you not? So that's the decision as a board you guys have to kind of make. Yeah.
Which is, isn't that wonderful? Same. Yeah. Now, can I get a seconder for that suggested resolution?
What is the resolution?
Is it?
You going to
as written?
As written.
Yeah.
So when I say as written,
and that. Yeah, read it out.
Yeah, read it out, please.
Number one positive. Tairua-Pauanui Community Board receives the rates remission requests, so we're receiving the report. Number two, request staff to contact the community groups that meets the community group that meets the criteria for remission but has not applied. 3, request staff to contact the community groups that are required to pay service charges and advise them of the financial hardship remission. Number 4, request staff to contact community groups paying multiple PAN charges and advise them to apply for relief under the rates remission policy miscellaneous purposes.
Do we want to add a 5 that we consider looking at applying for an out of budget request?
So would it be request staff investigate an out of cycle
Budget request, cover the,
I mean, how are they getting on other? I mean, what's they want?
come tomorrow, you'll get a story.
Oh, we first gave up Frank.
Right, so we've added that. The request to staff investigate an out of order budget request,
Out of cycle.
It says.
sorry, out of cycle budget request.
It says.
Okay,
Okay, all those in favour, clear and move and second it, please.
Yeah, I have to move it.
So does it look like that for staff?
Oh, you happy with that, Donna?
yes, that's fine, yep. Sounds good.
I'm
We
happy
have
to
a move and second it. All in favour?
Aye.
No guess? Carry. Item 7.1, the community board action schedule. I've got
They're all closed at the moment, so there's nothing open. Is that right?
Yeah.
I would just like to add this last one, I'll just put in here as a new action schedule, or just talk about.
Does anyone else have anything to raise on that?
Yeah, I have. I'd like to talk about the Tairua-Pauanui bus transportation proposal. Has any information come back through?
Harrick, so I contacted Harrick District Council, and the transport manager there seemed to think that the YP ward councillors would possibly be supportive of helping with this proposal. So it is with Ed Barley, our rating manager, and Harrick District Council rating manager. They were going to get together with WRC and get a report back to the board September as to possible funding outcomes and if it's a possibility. So Ed will investigate all that and Ed will bring the report back to the September meeting.
Because I suggest that we keep that open until such time as that is resolved.
So it'll be a new action. That action was closed, but this will be a new action now as they.
Also request through the board to discuss the fact, where they fit with it locally within the community. So that's really important because you guys are going to have to front for some of the money like we do to make it work. And it won't work unless we agree together as a group to make it work. So I'm asking that we spend some effort into that.
I did bring this up when I attended the last resident ratepayers meeting. They were not in favour of any rate making going into this. If there was some money going to be thrown around, they would like to support our local buses, like the community bus, put a subsidy into them. That was how they felt.
I would like to see some bigger, larger consultation too, thanks, if we can.
Yeah, well,
I don't think the regional council will sponsor the local bus per se. This is a regional council initiative.
It wasn't looking at getting involved in
Through the chair, regional council won't provide any funding for any bus service.
No, they're leading.
They manage the contract. Yeah, that's right. They lead it and manage the contract, but the funding comes from local funding and what Kotahi, if it meets the standards like they do for the Thames one.
But it comes through the regional council as the driver for this.
Yep, so they've got under the legislation, regional council have public transport as one of their remits, so they do the managing. Yeah.
Eddie, you still patched into this?
No, he's gone. Wait a second.
There we go.
He's come back.
I mean, there's no guarantee that Kotahi was, it's got to put money up, is it?
Just talking about the bus trial, Ed.
Yeah.
I've been listening. At the moment, I've managed to speak to the regional council regarding this. At the moment, Waka Kotahi have not allocated any funding for this in their 3-year forward program. So any allocation of funding for them would have to be an out of cycle budget request.
Yeah, that's, we've got nothing in our.
So, Ed, if I can just talk to this, Dennis Tagg, who's been promoting this activity over here to try and get it going, he's of the opinion that the funding, if it's signed off by the community boards, that there will be funding in the package. Do you say that's changing now?
I wouldn't be able to comment on that. All I can tell you at the moment is that Waka Kotahi have got no funding for this allocated. Whether or not they'll match the funding if a community board comes with it, I wouldn't be able to say.
No. Well, first we need to know if it's on or not. So that's the discussion. But there's some money in the long-term plan that we put in for consultation. So we just need to figure out how best to spend it on that answer.
Tairua-Pauanui didn't put any money in.
No.
Maybe one return.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. Pay for the same pay.
The business is trying to run and survive, and you're saying you're going to pull the rug in.
No, I don't think it's that at all. I think it's very much a situation where we're providing a service for those who haven't got transportation, whether for any reason, broken down or they need help or whatever. Funded through a system that they can afford to get over there. It's free to Gold Card members. I don't know if your bus service is like that at all. Yours is just a hire and use situation. This is a genuine 2-day-a-week operation, 1 to 10, 1 to Waihe. So I think if you ask within the community, there is a call for it. All sounds too hard to do, but when you get into it, there's people who are really asking or desperate to have this happen. And the more communities we connect with it, the more opportunity it's going to have some legs. So it's worth the effort to find out really within the community if there's a desire before you decide to flag it.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, we put anything on the schedule back.
No.
I hope.
I can come in if you want me to. Rex here.
Yes, Rex, please. Good morning.
Yeah. Oh, g'day. I just heard those question. Just to fill you in on the process to date, we've gone out and asked some external consultants to provide, based on a brief that we've prepared, to provide proposals for consideration to undertake the work that is required from an engagement and consultation process to develop part A or the first part of this process prior to any capital works program and a capital expenditure project happening, and for council to make a decision on, as per the previous resolutions passed by both your community board and council. We've received 2 of those, or 2 out of the 3 contractor or consultants we've approached. We have received their proposals that have just come through on Friday, hoping to get the 3rd one today. By the end of this week, we will look to make a decision on the preferred consultant, looking at the methodology, or based on the methodology, based on the timeframes, and based obviously on the cost for that to happen. We want to be able to get those contract or consultants underway as soon as possible, and to hopefully have pretty much the bulk of the engagement and consultation work required to have been completed by the end of this calendar year, so that council will be looking to make a decision early in the 2022 year. What we've worked hard with the consultants on is saying that timeliness is really important and we don't want this to drag on. So we've been able to tighten them in terms of those timeframes as per the methodology, although I've got to have a decent look through the proposals that have come through. But we're looking to get as much of that engagement and consultation work done by the end of this calendar year, so that council can make a decision at its first meeting back, probably looking likely to be February of next year. So that's pretty much, and the other thing that we'll need to do, we want to be able to get that work commissioned, but we'll also obviously need to go back to council with a retrospective out of cycle budget request to have this work completed, because this is outside the scope of the funding that has been allocated for the project to date. But happy to answer any questions, and hopefully that provides you with that update that things have been moving. And we, like by the end of this week, we'd be hoping to have engaged those consultants.
Thank you, Rick. Right, yeah. I'm pleased to hear something's happening, because the whips are out.
Yeah, well, I'm very determined to keep things progressing too, and have talked to a few members of the community from various with various stances on the project, and have committed to them that we want to make sure we follow through, and like I say, I'm determined to progress this in a timely fashion. So you have that commitment.
Thank you very much. Any further? Can I have a mover and a seconder for the resolution, please? Just to receive the action schedule?
Yeah.
Oh. Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carry. Members' reports. Who wants to lead off?
But
Barry, you want to like this?
As I said earlier, I visited Holland Close several times during the storms, various storms, whatever, and quite pleased what the storms have done regarding dredging the channel out, and it's working. There's been no flooding whatsoever, even with the downpours of rain. So that's good. So far, so good. I've been to a shoreline management meeting, and attended that was a good, go back to the shoreline meeting, very interesting meeting, certainly the last one, and they are going to be making public presentations, and it will be a presentation rather than a gathering of people asking questions. I think that's far better. Last week I attended the AGM of the Pauanui Library, and that is an extremely well run library, although, and that's with a bit of prejudice to my wife as the president of the thing, so, but even without that, it is a very well run library, very popular. The Hoppers sales office needs some common resolution. I believe there's some discussion going on regarding that.
Our property team have been working with Lee Hopper on it.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah. So they're working directly with Lee Hopper on getting that finalised.
Several people are interested in using it or being involved in it. The had a talk with Lou Mackerel, which I find him very, very obliging with acceptable ideas. About the Kennedy Park, there's a lot of work being done there on it's all organised that is what the cricket pitch wants doing itself because it's people are sliding and slipping all over the place there. And what did I look to? They could do with some contact numbers and names for the new contractors for the parks and reserves. Contractors, that would be good to be able to contact them for anything.
No, you can't contact staff, so.
I've gone through.
Well, yeah, or through the office.
Bring on any requests.
No, it's through the chair, really. Don't want to be funny, but ideally through the main council number to load an RFS. Now, if you really need us to do it, we can do that, but it's better to get it through that system because then it gets locked.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of jobs, just like a social thing when I see them out and about, just have a word and they know who I am and I know who's there.
Yep. So, yeah, I'm sure you can safely introduce yourself to them.
I love it.
Yeah. Just thinking about, driving machinery and stuff, don't jump out from them.
At the moment, a lot of people are concerned about the beach access and that, but I'm quite pleased by it being handled at the moment. Quite pleased. But Tanya and Lou seem to be doing a good job. They've had a very difficult time the last few weeks. They're doing a good job. Yeah, that's it.
You? No. All right. But I attended the meeting at Whitehall. We just after their last meeting, last community meeting. So then looking at several others, and I think they had a good resolution, didn't they? We do some alterations out there. Then a couple of days later, went to. I had a meeting with the Holland Close thing, and that's progressing through. I'd say I'm a bit sceptical, and I was a bit worried about what it's cost so far, but we're getting there slowly. And like I said earlier, I think the resource consent should be in the next month, so should be, Should be, yeah. Which will be really nice, then we can go in and get something done. I attended the resident ratepayers meeting here, which Rocky and myself have split up at this stage, but we've got Kath on board now.
Got my hand up.
That'll come down. We're trying to share.
See the large.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you never know what's coming out with them. I attended a meeting locally with Gary Tower and people that were concerned about the tsunami sirens and what's going to happen there. And I think, well, I thought it was quite positive, but the gentleman sitting at the back of the room might be a little more sceptical.
If I could speak, it was a very good meeting.
No. Yeah, that was a good meeting. And we just got to keep progressing through it. See what happens. And then went to the SMP meeting, and like Barry said, I'm starting to see some light at the end of that. It started off slow and bureaucratic, but we seem to be making some headway, which is good. Should be able to have some results in the next couple of months, I hope.
Can I ask what the SMP?
Shoreline management project. This is a project that decide whether, one of the things is decide whether we, sea level rise, do we
stand and fight it, or do we retreat? You know, a nice managed retreat, or just see, we're trying to decide what's worth saving and what's not worth saving. Do we build a wall, or do we move everything up the hill? Or so it's actually got quite big ramifications, I think. You know, because see the rules set down to that, possibly map the future. So I mean, there's some of it's been real hard work. Some of the guys that are on the committee are pretty staunch, aren't they? No.
So are those public meetings?
Set up panels from the public. The panels.
Representation. There's about,
they've done about 5. They've got, I think it's 8 to do in total of 8, isn't it? 8 meetings, side meetings are going around.
Something like that, yeah.
yeah. And there's actually, our area covers from Whangamata to Status Road. And then Woody Angus got a group up there, and then the group down the coast in the Gulf. And they sort of work their way around, and another group at Coromandel. And we're all coming up with stuff that suits us. So hopefully it'll work out right.
I think the plan too is it's going to be a piece of paper at the end that will have trigger points in it. Things happen, and that's what they suggest is the right thing to do at that time. So it's looking visually in the head as they anticipate what's going to happen, but we don't know until it does. So.
But we've got to be flexible too. Nobody can guarantee. You can't say in 30 years the sea level is going to rise 300 millimetres, but you can say that it looks like it is rising. And so you can move your trigger points. That's quite good. Yeah, so that's sort of going to be my month.
I just, sorry to interrupt, I forgot to mention that I also attended the Ratepayers and Residents Association meeting in Pauanui.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've had several meetings, AGMs, monthly meetings. The hall's been going through a review of where they're at, where they're going. They really got involved. They're using the information centre to, well, they have been using the information centre to do their hall bookings online. Of course, with this banking system that we've been forced to adopt. They still have a committee, a new president, a new secretary. They're using, as I say, the broker at the info to do more and more of their work. Again, all these committees around here seem to have the same personnel on them, or half of them seem to be the same personnel. They're all getting old. Looking at, I'm trying to move them. Their constitution was the original one from 1984, so quite a bit of it was out of date. So it's a work in progress for them. I'm hoping to put them under the arm of the information centre. Also, they have the title of community services tacked onto them. I'm hoping to try and get the whole committee to sit under that umbrella of community services. However, that's good. President Ratepayers Association, yeah, I went along to one of their meetings as well. I seem to have had 2 meetings, Chris, myself. This one I went to on my own. They were concerned, they're still concerned about the disconnection of the sirens. They were concerned about the ring fencing of the skate park monies, the dredging, beach replenishment. I tried to get them interested in the 3 waters because I'm really concerned that that's definitely going to affect ratepayers. So hopefully they'll do some reading. There's plenty, well, I wouldn't say there's plenty of information out there. There's some information. There's a lot, obviously, still in the pot that has to get to be put out publicly. I got in touch with my area manager here about the proliferation of signs at the entrance to Tairua, and I'm really referring to Redbridge Road. Whilst I think it's quite acceptable to have the local businesses out there, for several months now, every Tom, Dick and Harry seems to be whacking their sign out there. To me, it's a pretty dismal sort of entry point to Tairua to see everyone taking their billboards out there. We only have one rock shop. We only have one gym. We only have one fishing club. We only have one whatever. Why the hell have they got to put these big signs in? Anyway, I'm sure Colleen and her team, her staff are looking at it. And several emails to his phone about it. But to me, it's I've also been contacted now about the spreading location of dinghies down at the wharf. They've now migrated south of the wharf. They're going along that piece of reserve land. They're tied up for her to come. There's even a pipe frame there with dinghies on. Who the hell owns it? We don't have any more swing moorings. I don't understand how we've got more dinghies. But it needs sorting out. Because the people have got those nice properties there. Starting to get that's me.
Actually, talk the process.
Yeah. Sorry?
I talked to Wayne Price this morning about that. He called yesterday. Russell.
Yeah.
And he clearly says that I've sorted the problem. Apparently it was the dinghies came up in a storm. They're thrown up onto the grass. And there's only one that's not supposed to be there, and he's going to address that shortly. But apparently, according to Wayne, all the dinghies should have their boat name and the owner's name on the transom. If not, it should have to be taken away.
I went out a walk down there yesterday and they've been thrown up, also been tied up.
Yeah.
I'm not thrown.
There's not many got that boat name.
No, not the only one that Good.
Yes, not much today. Report. The big one, obviously, is Three Waters. Three Waters is going to be a huge discussion for the country, not only for us here. I'm getting calls regularly at 3 last night, people asking the question. It's starting to spread in terms of where the assets are going to go, who's going to look after them, who's going to make the decisions. I just encourage the community board to go on to the webinars. There's one, Susan Freeman's got one available coming up on Monday the 8th. So the 8th, between 1 and 2 p.m. So I suppose staff send these out. Staff send these out? You send them out there? Oh, this morning, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if you've got time today, but do connect on them and hear the story. It's going to be quite compelling about how this, which is a big part of what's going on, starting with potable water, and obviously they've got wastewater and stormwater issues coming up. And yeah, you will get a lot of requests for information, and it's really good to be engaged with this. The council's very concerned, obviously, and watching carefully. We took the first tranche, no strings attached, $4 million. That's going to be spent on water meters in Whitianga and Whangamata. The second tranche is coming up for the discussion. We've got a meeting on the 24th, a workshop at council on this to discuss where we're going, because the information is slow coming through it. We don't really know fully what the package is and how it fits. The council will be making some sort of recommendation going forward on where we see we fit with this. So it will be up some pretty robust discussion, I'm sure. So yeah, something to be really mindful of, and you'll get some questions from everybody. The Pepe Bridge update. I did have something from Anne Stewart-Ball, but I don't seem to. I was looking for it just now. But some sort of, I know that they've got a business case coming by the year of 2020. Have you heard any more?
There's a meeting next Wednesday in the hall from 3 till 6. Rocky Right.
Oh, yeah. I knew something was happening.
Sort of a slideshow.
Right. So is anybody coming from the going to it from here?
Oh, I'll be there.
Here we go. Yeah, really important to engage with that one, to see where it's going.
Yeah, well, I actually went to the one, annex down there too, with the ratepayers.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all, was only
Talkfest.
yeah, really, there's nothing planned.
So this one, NGTA fronting to the meeting.
Apparently, yes, it's their concept, their conception or whatever. it is.
Right, they're putting it on,
Yes,
hosting it, okay.
What time's it? When's that?
3 o'clock till 6. So I'm imagining it's some sort of static thing that you walk in and have a look.
There's no decision made, there's still, I think they're still trying to figure out what the community wants, whether it be 1 lane, 2 lane.
Yeah, well, I hope people submitted to it because there was an online submission for that. I hope, I'm pleased to make those told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 130 or what.
Yeah, they were
So I hope anyone else has put their pennies with it.
That's fine.
Thank you. Kath, do you got, I know you're.
Yeah, I haven't really got anything officially to, given I'm just being kind of sworn today, but just for everyone's FYI, I guess. I did attend the Tairua Environment Society meeting, as you know, in there too, about safety issues around along Poker Drive and the contention around the Puketaka tree, because it's safety and obviously there's different things to different people, was what I got from that meeting. I would like to see that in our further discussions.
Did anything come out of it? Any sort of?
Just what John's presented today, really, in terms of, it was really just a coming up with some ideas, hearing what the community's concerns were on the broader range from people down Lane to the street, Ocean Beach Road to the way up Parko. It's actually quite an interesting meeting, quite positive. Yeah, mostly. I also went over and met with Bob Renton on the 16th of July and had a general catch up with him, just introducing himself to me. We had a little tour of Pauanui and heard about the issues, obviously that they are dealing with over there in terms of beach and ocean erosion and the Holland Close water issue. That's pretty much.
Thank you. Can I have a move in a second to receive the members' reports? Yep.
I'll second.
All in favour? Aye. Yes. Carried. Right, so yeah, move in a second and that we move into public excluded.
Yep.
Yep. In favour? Aye. All right.